Welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors. We share stories of resilience, tools for resilience, and how doing so gives hope to anyone navigating life's roughest waters. Today's episode is special. This marks 1 full year of Shit Creek Survivors. Dennis and I reflect on what last year taught us about resilience, community, authenticity, and growth. This conversation is about lessons we didn't expect, the impact we never planned for, and the positive paddles that helped us keep going even when things got hard. If you've ever wondered what consistency, honesty, and community can do over time, this episode is for you, because there's always hope, even in the creek. So it has been a year, and a couple questions that I've got for us today is, what made you start doing the podcast a year ago? Should I start or should you start?
You can start. It was more your
Okay.
idea anyway, so let you take the lead.
Well, the idea came about because after I was injured, I was shot in the face, and then I was going through PTSD, and then I leaned into the bottle, and that became a big problem. And, as an alcoholic, I had to get back on my feet, and I thought I was alone. I thought I was the hardest done to person in the entire world, that no one would understand me, and that, very much in a victim mentality. But then I started going to AA and just figured out that nothing was going to change in my life unless I changed. And I was able to do that and go through the steps. And what I found out is, by going to these meetings, I would hear people telling stories, grown men telling stories about things you should be embarrassed about, things that, you should never let anybody know that's happened in your life, or you've done, or you've thought, or whatever it is. But I started hearing these stories. I'm like, that sounds a lot like something I've done before. And slowly but steadily, I started hearing more and more stories. And I was just like, this is so powerful. People owning the moments that were bad and explaining how those moments kind of catapulted them, or even like were a catalyst to switching their lives up and becoming something better. And I also knew that with PTSD, there weren't a lot of resources. There aren't a lot of people talking about it. It's starting to happen now, where people are being, encouraged to handle trauma, fix it before it all stacks up. And then all of a sudden you've got an even bigger problem, right? So I was telling Dennis, I told you, at my father's funeral celebration of life, afterwards, I was like, you showed up, and that meant a lot to me. And I was like, we should do a podcast
Right.
because,
Well, I had also recently lost my dad and my stepdad about a
yeah,
year and a half apart, and then probably only a year before your father. So I was still kind of in that processing the death of my first superhero kind of thing, because I feel
right.
like it really hit me that way, and I knew
Yeah.
it probably would hit you that way. So of course I wanted to be there for you. We had a really good relationship, working relationship and personal relationship when we were working together. And I knew you were in town and you were usually out of town, so I wanted to take the advantage to see you. I mean,
Yeah.
it always makes me feel good to be around you and to listen to you and to talk with you and share things with you. It's a comfortable spot. I trust you. And
Yeah.
when you said you want to do this podcast, I think my first response really was just to be there with you, just to have some accountability for myself and give you some accountability.
Yeah.
And man, has it blown up to being something completely different.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
Um, Super cool. And what fears did we have before we even got started? What do you think was holding us back?
I can nail this one on the hammer right away. It's the pressure of being exposed and vulnerable, and then somebody just making a random comment that could, and it would hurt my feelings, or it would hurt my drive, or hurt my motivation, or make me feel stupid.
Yeah.
All the negative places we've been in our life from different things, that I mean that life can do.
Yeah. It takes courage, I will tell you, to be vulnerable and put it out there to the world. Like it,
I don't feel that way anymore though.
it,
I
well,
don't feel like it's being courageous. I feel like it's stupid to hide the truth even to yourself.
yeah.
And it's stupid to feel like somebody else's opinion matters so much that it can make or break my day if they approve of me or they don't approve.
And that was a new concept.
Why would a stranger have that much power over me?
Right.
But they did. and they
Yeah.
do to a lot of people in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, yeah, I was scared to try it because I mean, the first thing that probably came to mind is this isn't gonna do anything. This doesn't matter. People are gonna make fun of it. People are gonna hear about my
You
worst
can't have it
moments and
and
like all
some
that kind of stuff. And then once we did it, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't too bad." You know?
well, yeah, honestly, like I said, the accountability for each other was the main driving focus to go ahead and look past those fears. That
Yeah.
positivity was something I knew I needed, and I knew it was something that you probably needed. And I've said all along, if we help each other out every week when we talk, then we win. If
Yeah.
one person listens to it and it helps them out, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. And do you
So
believe it's helped has it helped you?
that's 100% helped me.
Yeah, me too. How so would you say? Like, if you look at yourself 1 year ago,
Well,
what do you
I mean, I almost just said it. Really, Panagon just said it. My initial fears were that social mask that I wear that we've talked about before, and maybe we'll talk more about later. That I was going to be vulnerable, and somebody was going to poke fun of it or think less of me
Mhm.
or whatever. And I don't care anymore like that. I mean, I care some. I mean, I'm not wanting to
Yeah.
piss people off just to piss people off, but knowing that somebody else's opinion of me shouldn't matter,
Mhm.
and that I can just be myself, and I can be authentic, and I can be good, and I can do positive things, and I'll just stay positive, and I'll try to give people positive outlook when they talk to me, and I'll just try to be that shining light of the glove, um, and it's
I
just
love that.
it's empowering.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, I've also been really real with myself and my weak spots too, and acknowledging that and taking accountability for it. Not been easy.
It's funny when we first started, like, the real question, if we broke it down to bare bones, is what's more important? Helping somebody or not being embarrassed?
Well,
Potentially being embarrassed.
it's
Potentially
100%
being
helping
embarrassed.
people.
Yeah.
I shared it just the other day on my Facebook. Some advice. You're not here to be loved, comforted, and understood. You are here to love, comfort, and understand.
Mhm.
So you're not supposed to be looking inward. You're not supposed to be selfish. You're not supposed to be thinking about yourself. You're supposed to be helping somebody else get through a difficult time. You're supposed to help somebody else feel better. You're supposed to give happiness and joy and love. When
Mhm.
somebody's frustrated, you're supposed to help them out. That parable that I loved from my Pastor Meyer in Topeka, Kansas, when I was 13 years old. He told of his time as a missionary in Thailand, that they had a definition of heaven and hell. And in both scenarios, you're sitting at a large banquet table full of the most desirable foods and nourishment. But the only way you can eat it is with these really long chopsticks. And you can't reach your mouth with this chopstick. So in hell, there's frustration and anger and hunger. But in heaven, you're not trying to feed yourself. You're feeding the person across the table from you. So
Mhm.
there's happiness, there's joy, there's fulfillment. And I think that's something that we were put on this earth to really start to understand. And that's why it's so frustrating and so hard, because it's worth it when you get there, when you finally start to understand you're not here for you, you're here
Mhm.
for each other. That's why I always say we're communal creatures.
Yeah. Yes. Very, very good stuff. Do you have a story that impacted you the most? I don't know if I have one story because there were so many different stories.
Yeah.
Um, I was looking at them today. I thought that I think it was like our 15th episode. It was with Charles, your buddy from DFW.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about, the Levites being God's first,
Uh-huh.
uh, police officers and that sort of stuff. I thought that was really cool, and I think that happened right at a time when you and I were kind of, like, opening ourselves up more to the religion aspect, and he was able to just kinda hammer in some awesome gold nuggets, and I walked away from that like, "Oh, okay." It was interesting to me. One of the cooler stories I think that we did well, first, a cocaine dealer showing up at my front door or excuse me, I should explain that. One of our episodes, I actually had an individual knock on the door, during the day when I was doing some editing, He wanted to spray the yard with some grass killer. He had already done the front yard. He knocked on the door. He's like, "Hey, open up the back. I'm going to spray the back." I'm like, "No, you're at the wrong house." He goes, "No, I'm at the right house. Open the back." And I'm like, "No, you're at the wrong house. Check your paperwork." And he goes, "Oh, I am at the wrong house, but I do have a Shit Creek survivor story." I go, "Well, yeah, what's that?" And he goes, "I was a high level cocaine dealer in Atlanta for multiple years. Now I'm in seminary school." I'm like, "Awesome."
Yeah.
So we just had the most random kind of like stuff fall in our lap when we started moving forward with the podcast. And initially the podcast was, I mean, we did focus on kind of like my story and like what happened with me, and then we transitioned to you. But I believe like that did multiple things for me. One
Yeah,
thing
I
is I
think
was
it was
able,
therapeutic for you. I think it really was.
yeah, I was able to um speak my story, own the good, the bad, the ugly, the embarrassing, right? And in a way, do it with my chest out, hoping that someone else who might be in the same situation could see it and it might give them a little bit of hope.
And it has though. I mean, like we've had more guests come on and feel impacted by it. We've had comments from strangers online and in person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would say the totality of all of them together is probably very, very fulfilling, and we can talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
How they're so similar in so many ways. But yeah, having a random stranger talk, just being smiley, and I say, "Hey, I love how you're smiling. Keep that smile on. That's positivity spreads positivity." In fact, here's a business card with a podcast I do with my buddy talking about it, and he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, I'm subscribed to that. I'm already a
That's
subscriber."
awesome.
I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. That's amazing." So he's like, "You made my day." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. You just made mine." That was very
Yeah.
empowering. At a friend's birthday party just last week, another police officer was there. He looked really familiar, but I thought maybe he was just familiar because of the mutual friend. But as
Right.
he's mentioned that he was a police officer, it ended up being very adjacent to where we worked. And there were times that we ran into each other, whether it was when I was a MacTac instructor or just at the gas station
Mm-hmm.
that joined the districts. And he shared with me that after talking about the podcast that he had gone through, and he said I could share it. So I'm not trying to give him away or anything like that, but he said I could share it because he doesn't want to come on and tell his story himself, but he did want to share it. So he said I could share it. Um, he went through a divorce after several years. I think it was decades. I think it was like 30-year divorce, 20-year divorce, something that or 20-year
Wow.
marriage. They got divorced, and he was going to kill himself. He had the plans. He was going to use a service weapon. He was going to walk into the woods until he got tired of walking, and then he was going to do it so nobody would ever find his body. And when he was getting ready to do it that day, a buddy called and just started talking to him randomly. And it was like, I'm not going to let you get off of this conversation for whatever reason, not knowing what it was. And then a relatable story about either that same guy or another person called whose father had killed themselves like several decades ago and how it still
Mm-hmm.
impacted their lives. And suddenly the urge just went out of his head, just went away from him. So he didn't even mention his problem to that person on the phone, but just being acceptable to being a communal creature and to talk, be in the presence of somebody else, even though it was on the phone. It allowed that progress to happen. This is why it's so
Mm-hmm.
important not to be by ourselves and alone in the dark and solitude and withdraw so much. I mean, it's a perfectly normal reaction, but it can't be the solution. And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
suicide is definitely not the solution either. It's the permanent solution to a temporary problem. And it really,
Mm-hmm.
really is. And I said that to him. He said, "You're right. It really, really is." But he is so much better placed mentally. And he became a subscriber that day. And maybe he's listening to this one now. And I just want to give him a shout out, a virtual hug. I'm not going to say what department you work for or your name or anything like that, but I'm glad that you didn't do it. I'm glad you're still here. You are worthy, you are important, and it matters to people. And even though I barely
Yeah.
knew you, if I would have found out that you did that, it would have impacted my life. So of course, it would have impacted the lives of your closer friends and your family members.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep that balance and keep that uh, in line.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going positive. It works. Talk to people. It works. Even if you don't talk about the problem, it can help you.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that was probably the most important thing of all this. Really, the most impactful thing.
Yeah. Well said. What did this last year Teach us about resilience.
A little bit what we already knew, that you have to keep going. I mean, I gave the
Mhm,
advice so many times to people on the streets, taking them to jail, taking them from one jail to another, uh, talking to them after they got out of jail and they still wanted to be friendly with me. I like that. That's something I can put my hat on. Um,
mhm.
because I always treated people with respect. But I always said the only way to get out of a hole that you felt like you dug yourself into is climbing like a ladder one step at a time. You can't just jump out of the hole. You dug the hole too deep. So you have
Right.
to take the steps one step at a time to slowly get out of it. And that's the positivity, that's the redundancy, that's the resilience. And so
You know,
we
I
put it into practice. We heard it every day. We stayed resilient by talking to each other on a regular basis. I think that was important. How you define resilience now?
so 2 stories that we told this year that I thought were monumental. One was the Silversmith story. The Smith story is the story we discussed where a Bible group was wanting to know what it meant that Jesus refines us like silver. And so a woman decided to contact a silversmith, go to the silversmith, watch him do the work, and not tell him that she was actually studying, what this actually meant biblically. And she watched the silversmith grab a piece of silver, and he instructed to her, I put this in the middle of the fire, the hottest part. And she
Hottest
says, well,
part.
can you put it on the outside of that fire or anything like that? No, it has to go into the absolute hottest part of the fire. That's where all the impurities get burned off. And then she sat there and she watched, and he sat there with his eyes on the metal the entire time. And she thought to herself and said to him, can't you just set it down for 5 minutes and walk away and come back? And he's like, no, not only can I not walk away, I can't keep my eye off it because if I heat it too long, it'll actually damage it beyond repair. And she says, well, then how do you know when to pull it out of the fire? It's when I can see my reflection in it,
Right. So to
which,
put that together, then it's Jesus is putting you in the hottest fire, the most troubling times of your life, because he's burning out the impurities of alcoholism and addictions and uh,
yeah,
lust and all the bad negative stuff. And until he sees his image in it, he's not going to pull you out of it. But he's watching you, and he's not going to let you get burned beyond repair. He's not going to let you get permanent damage. He's going to pull you out.
yeah,
So I think that is a
there's a
great way,
purpose.
right?
Yeah, there's a purpose. And I
And what
know
was the
you
what
and
was the
I,
negative that we got from that? We got a negative comment on that where he said that he was a silversmith and you don't do that at all. You use chemicals, and I just made me laugh so hard because I was like, you realize that this parable was written long before chemicals were used to refine silver. So the
right.
parable's still relevant and it still has meaning. He just
The
didn't
the
get it.
funniest the funniest thing was it was like a jewelry person who decided
Yeah.
to make that comment. It was the funniest thing.
But at least people
Um,
are watching and talking about it. So I mean,
yeah,
that's all you can really hope for, and not take offense to it. And see that those negative comments don't hurt me as bad as I thought they were going to hurt me. They don't hurt my drive or my motivation as much as I thought they were going to hurt,
right.
or derail me, or give me
It's
a
been
negative, make
really
me have a bad day, whatever.
it's been really interesting that I notice some of the heavier comments that we get because the majority of the comments we get are positive. They're like,
Mhm.
"Thank you. This really makes sense. Good point. Didn't see it this way." All that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
The negative content or whatever context that we'll get usually have to do with a post on faith.
yeah.
And
And
I
we've
think
even
that's
had guests that almost didn't want to come on because they thought we were just a purely religious podcast.
yeah.
And we had to tell them, no,
Yeah.
religion is a paddle that helped us, so we do talk about it, but it's not like we're saying it has to be about religion. In fact, I mean, we just had Rachel, the Jewish faith. Her father was a rabbi that sold drugs. I mean, so she talked about a completely different faith, and she talked about yoga, and that's a spiritual paddle. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a part of it for us, but it doesn't have to be part of the whole program. But yeah, you're right. The negative comments have mostly been related to religion, and that would
And they're
be
not direct.
this.
Yeah, exactly. So it's what's really interesting about that is like I learned from that happening over and over. There's no reason to like combat it. You know what I mean? What I've learned is these people, if they're having a reaction to something that we've said to the point where they have to put it into words, this isn't about us. This is
Yeah,
about something else that's going on in their life. And now I recognize it. I'm like, I understand that you're seeking right now. People don't like to hear that. You know what I mean? When they're angry. But the truth is debating or coming to terms with something or trying to figure something out, usually against faith, like it not being the answer because you don't want it to be, you don't believe it could be, all these kinds of
Right.
things.
And their ego hasn't allowed them to even acknowledge the negative thoughts that they're having and the negative actions, reactions that they're having, let alone
Right.
accept it and try to change it and move on and get better.
You know,
Um,
something else that's happened that parallels that to me, and I didn't even think it would be a thing. It definitely was at the initial part, but even though the podcast had happened, um, it is, how should I say this? Showing up to this table as a student rather than a critic. And what I'm trying to
or a
say
teacher,
is, or it's, yeah, or a teacher.
or we're coming to this like as learners, not masters.
And the more episodes we did, the more I was able to like really open up. Like there was no longer like, I get this, but I don't, or I see this, but I don't see this, and blah, 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 blah. Cause
There's
I'm
just more
starting to,
masks, just more of your masks being taken off.
right. And also it's showing me that people have a hard time letting go of preconceived concepts.
Hmm.
So initially, when you're like me, when you tried to fix everything on your own, you've got a very tight, compacted view of what's possible and what's not possible until one day you hear something, see something, talk to somebody, and it kind of cracks the door a little bit. You're like, oh, I didn't see that angle. Maybe that does apply to me, right? So you start seeing more angles, more views, more concepts that apply to you. And then somewhere along the line, you figure out that the concepts don't have to make sense to me. They have to make sense to the person it's helping. So if
Yeah,
someone were to come on our show and say something that we may not understand because it's not relevant in our lives, it could be relevant to a listener.
yeah,
Do you get what I mean? And although we're not having like an initial response like boom, that blew my socks off because it's affecting us personally, it's actually like potentially helping somebody that we would never be able to reach because they're saying something that we don't even have in our vocabulary. Do you get what
right.
I'm trying
Well,
to say?
I mean, we've had several female guests that we can't really relate to because we're not female. Then
Hmm.
the angles that they've had and traumas that they've had, we can't completely understand it because we can't completely be there, you know,
Right.
mentally or physically. And it probably reached a female listener that might be feeling something, and
Good
see,
point.
they're all so connected though. Still, like
Yep.
all the stories are still kind of connected. It's
The overhead view for sure. The
right,
overhead view for sure. So you run into something in life you didn't see coming. It kicks your ass. You feel hopeless for a bit until at some point, whatever tool or paddle you found, or you kick yourself kind of in the butt and say it's time to change or time to find some tools, and then you get to work. And you don't really
and it
have
does,
a
and it
plan.
can be just life itself in some regards. You know,
Yes,
when
absolutely.
life itself happens. Life
Yeah.
itself is like a Stockholm syndrome. It could be a negative situation. You will not move out of it because it's comfortable because it's been going on for so long.
Yes. Well said. Who else said that? We did that interview with the guys at Bartow County Jail. And one of the inmates who graduated the RAP program, which we later did an episode on that graduation, in his interview, he said that he was trapped by the things that made him comfortable.
Hmm.
What an authentic thing to say. You know what I mean? Like this guy's saying, like, I thought comfort was having a roof over my head, having meth, and running and gunning.
Right,
That's what I thought was comfortable based on everything I had seen in my environment. But the truth is, I was trapped because that's the only thing I knew. I've
right.
learned now through this program, there are many other points of view, many other ways of life, and I would like to pursue those because they also became self aware. I am
That's
responsible
big.
for
Yes.
myself, and then they got coached on if I'm responsible for myself and addiction is on my list of things that could potentially threaten my personal growth. I have to take it as far as avoiding the people, the places, and the things that I was around when I was using I can't be around them when I'm not, because that's dancing with the devil. Although it sucks, you lose some friends, you got to live authentically to you. And what's interesting is I found with my walk through sobriety, I totally cut everybody out, especially from my group of friends who weren't police officers, because that's all we did was drink together. That's basically all it was. And it was sad because I was like, man, I don't get to be part of this group anymore. I felt really bad about it. I tried to hang around them a couple times, but it was just too stressful. And but now that I decided to go on my own, a year later, I'm getting a phone call from one of them saying, "Hey, I think I've got an issue. What should I do?"
Yeah.
So it's really interesting what you can do for other people by attending to yourself and growing in a way that serves people around you compared to just being around the people that make you comfortable and do the things that make you feel good. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
alcoholism itself can be kind of that negative, comfortable Stockholm syndrome that you can get to, where, like, and for me personally, like, it was the only I felt like it was the only way I could quiet the voices and go to sleep and get myself to sleep. So I get enough rest to wake up and be functional the next day, to go to work, and to be and be a good, you know, member of the military and member of a police department.
yeah.
Um, but it's not, and I knew it, but I didn't accept it. And now I have accepted it, and now it's better.
Yeah.
So
Good.
that self-awareness and that accountability, I'm still at the earlier stages of my whole progress. You've got 10 years going on. Um,
But we have
I've
to right
I've
now
gotten to the point
recognize
where I'll
that.
still drink, but I don't drink to get drunk. Like I'll
Yeah.
drink after dinner or with dinner, wine with steak, or uh, a beer with some pizza on football Sunday. But I'm not drinking to get drunk, to put myself to sleep, to shut up
That
the voices in my head.
that's a big difference between, so everyone has their own relationship with alcohol, right? You're able to dial it down.
And not everybody.
Me, I can't. I've tried that experiment too many times and it just doesn't work. I fail every time. I feel terrible about it. So I have to go to the extreme end, and
Right.
I think it's interesting because like my extreme end is like when I got sober, I thought life was going to suck without alcohol. Like, how's life fun without alcohol? How do I talk to people without alcohol? I had no concept of what living a sober life and communicating with people and all that kind of stuff was after a
Right.
period of time where I just like dove into alcohol. Like I was totally gone. Um,
Yeah, I
and it
mean,
would,
I felt that way too a little bit at first. Like, well, I mean, what am I going to do at the lake if I don't drink? You
right.
know, how am I
And
going to
I
sleep if
think,
I don't drink?
and I
Um,
think that's a big hurdle that a lot of people have trouble with when they're like, when
right?
they're kind of
Doing
deliberating,
doing the
is there?
fasting thing has really helped. I
Yeah.
think doing the fasting thing is what's helped me dial it down too, because it's that concept of I'm going to let my mind and body override what I really want. The
Mm,
chemical dependency, the dopamine addiction to the negative actions of watching porn, of eating bad food, of drinking alcohol. Those are some of my personal problems that I was
mhm,
having a negative results on. And by saying, no, this isn't who I am, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to let that control me, is where I get to take like command over my mind and my body
mhm,
and was those impulses by just saying no. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give into that. And it's tough at first. I'd say that I'm going to do the 3-day fast again here next week. um I do intermittent fasting a lot too, but I don't know, the cravings feel overwhelming. Like I gotta eat, I gotta eat. But when I
mhm,
put my foot down and say no, I'm not going to, and I chug water, suddenly the cravings go away.
mhm.
And then it's like, okay, I'm back into cruise mode. And once that happened the very first time, I was able to do it again and again during that committed time of what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Um, but it's
Dis
it's not easy.
discipline. Yeah.
It takes this.
Discipline is tough. Like it really is. I mean,
That's resilience.
yeah, just keep going. Yeah. It is funny how it gets so hard sometimes to be disciplined. Like literally you're talking about it because I've been in that experience where like you're You know you're fasting, you know you're not supposed to eat, but I'm standing there looking at the food, you
Mhm.
know, and it's like this battle that's going on, and there's all kinds of voices that come up. Well, you should be able to eat. You worked out today, and then you know what I mean, like, and it's like all these kind of like my
Where's that voice coming from? Is it coming from your spirit inside of you, who you know you are, or is it coming from your mind? Is it coming from your body, the stomach cravings, the mental chemical dependencies? Any of those.
yeah,
This is where you take that second to think about what's negative and what's positive. How am I going to control how I react to this?
yeah,
I mean, just put it in everything. How
yeah.
somebody talks to you, how you deal with pressure at work, how you deal with hunger, how you deal with your diet, how you deal with your addiction, how you deal with your relationships. Were you intending to hurt my feelings? Because that could have hurt my feelings. And if you were intending on it, well, then I don't have to remove myself from this negativity.
Right. Yeah. It's hard right now. It's so funny how discipline works because you know, during the summer, I work out in the garage. You know, I've got like a rack up there, just enough to do some good workouts. And lately, since it's gotten cold, although my garage is attached, I like have to like mentally prepare. It's crazy. It takes me like 20 minutes to get out there. It's the slowest process. I don't understand it. I've been talking to my wife about it. I'm like, why is it so hard? It's just cold. You know what I mean? Like it's just one variable got switched. And now I'm like, oh, I don't want to go out there. You know, I like find wiggle room. And, you know, once you start, it's not the first day that you don't do it that absolutely matters. It's actually the second day. It's the second day that you're like, you know what, I'm going to do
Definitely.
that again because then you're really hammering down that nail. Like, oh, I get to take breaks. You
Well,
get what I'm?
the empowering part comes from seeing positive results from the positive actions that are
Mhm.
similar to the positive results you got from the negative actions.
Yeah.
That's where you get the enlightenment, where you realize I do have a choice, and this choice is better.
Hmm.
And it's, I mean, it's just simple sounding, but it's real.
And what? And you got to prove to yourself too because you did it, and then like after you did it, you're like, that was awesome. Like, I'm proud of myself for that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, no one else may get it, how important it is to me, but that's a big deal to me. I held myself to account. You know, I said what I was going to do and I followed through and I did it.
I
I mean,
think
there's something to be said.
there's something to be said about that is, and obviously a good thing too. But if you take yourself out of your own head and stop focusing on yourself so much, once you get some
Mm,
positive traction going and start remembering that you're not here just for yourself, you're here for other people.
yeah.
That call to helping other people will help fulfill your soul as well too, and
Yeah.
your inner
I,
peace will come from that.
I think that's,
So think about that when somebody does put down when you did your little 30-second clip the other night. It's Friday night, it's late. If you're alone, you're not alone. Don't feel alone. I mean, people are here for you, and you gotta thank you. That actually helped. That little second helped me. How does that make you feel when somebody feels positive about something you said or did? When you're out there trying to help somebody and it worked, it makes you feel good.
mhm,
It makes you feel empowered. Now we can't let ego trip happen where we start going, "I did it, I did it." No, we're just allowing ourselves to uh, well, in our book and in our religious paddle, we're allowing the Holy Spirit to work through us, and it's his talks, his words, not mine. He deserves the glory for it, not me. But it does make me feel good. It does make me feel positive, and we just want to stay in that positive, loving light.
yes,
Be
absolutely.
that glove, don't be the hand.
That was probably our second biggest story. Tell it really quick so anybody listening for the first time who didn't hear it understands the glove.
Yeah. Well, I did a specific one about the golf glove because I was at the driving range when I did the video, and I said that the golf glove was invented in the 1800s. And it's been around since, and its purpose is to improve your golf life, your control and your grip. It can't fulfill its purpose without your hand in it because it's made in the image of your hand. Well, you're made in the image of God, and you can't fulfill your purpose without God in you. And Jesus seeing his reflection in your silver when he puts you in the hottest fire and burns out all the impurities. So
Yeah.
now what you do is you go improve your life and improve your grip and control to help other people.
Mhm. It is funny that at the end of the day, okay, a couple
Well,
things about a couple things about this year that just kind of triggered in my mind. Um, one of the most, something that's been very impactful to me, and this may feel a little duh to most people, but talking to people who've been through rough patches slash shit creeks does help you know in your soul that you're not alone.
Right.
And when you talk to these people and they're bearing, like their soul and what really helped them, you understand that those moments of desperation aren't just isolated to you,
Right.
and that they're thinking the same way in those moments. And what's really interesting, and my mom actually shared this with me, and it makes sense to me now, is a lot of times when we've been through something, if you're anything like me, I kept telling people my story. And it was almost like an impulse thing. Be like, I'm Cameron. I'm a former police officer. I got shot in the face. This is what happened, And I didn't understand that when I was sharing my story a lot, it was actually me processing it. And I would kind of tell the story while watching somebody and seeing how they're reacting and kind of, processing it over and over. But I like the analogy that my mom gave me. It's almost like how a pearl's made. You start with something rough, and then you start by talking about it, smoothing up the the jagged edges of that story. You know, the more you tell it, the more you kind of just like let go, the smoother the story gets.
That's a good
A-
one.
Yeah, and the smoother the story gets, the better it can help other people.
And the prettier it gets,
Right.
the more digestible it is, the more relatable
So
it is.
imagine that process. Something traumatic happens to you. In order to get through it, you talk about it to smooth the edges off. By talking about it, you impact other people. So it's a mutual beneficial thing here. Every single person that we have on this show that's a survivor, has had the time to process to an extent what's happened. We meet them where they're at in their process. But again, they tell their story, and they know the jagged edges. They know the parts that hurt. They know the parts that were embarrassing. But at this point, it doesn't hurt them as bad. So they're willing to talk about it even more, which is
Right.
even more empowering because then the story doesn't control you. You are not your story. Something happened to you in your life and you're going through it. It does not define who you are. And a lot of times in trauma, we get caught up thinking that it does. We
Right.
think we think that this is who we are, this is how it is, and we're deciding if we want to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a scary place to be in. We make bad choices sometimes when we're left alone with those thoughts.
That's
When the
that negative
truth is,
cycle that just keeps repeating. When the positive one, the shining, softening the rough edges is making a pearl. It's such a beautiful, positive cycle to keep being of repeating, repeating, repeating. As you said, you're helping yourself, you're softening the blows, and you're helping somebody else at the same time. And that's where you want to be. But you don't know that it exists because you're stuck in this one in comfort.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So to anyone who's listening, I know you've heard my story like 50 times at this point, but it has helped me tremendously just being able to share it. And to anyone who's listening, thank you. I appreciate you giving me the time to share my story and smooth out that pearl a little bit more and get better at it so I can help more people. And I hope that by sharing the story and smoothing out that pearl in front of you, it gives you the authenticity that I was really going through it for one thing, but you have the then belief to share it,
Yes,
uh because it's real, and we all go through our struggles, and it helps to talk about it to smooth out that pearl. And I've seen that so many times with people coming on here. The more we see it a lot of times with people who want to come on but aren't yet ready. It's
mhm,
like their pearl isn't smooth enough yet. There's still parts of it that they don't understand, or they're questioning, or still kind of bites at them, or they're afraid could hurt somebody else, and like all that kind of stuff, or amends haven't been made, and there's just loose strings in places and stuff like that. And it's just really interesting that they're in the process of preparing that pearl. They've started to
wasn't their
work on it
wasn't their
you
time
know
yet.
Yeah. We've been
Notification.
contacted by people who want to be on the show, who are friends of yours, who are friends of mine, but again, say, I, I have a story to share, but I'm just not ready. And it's
That's why
because,
we're gonna keep doing this, right?
yeah, absolutely. It's actually
Well, what
going
a
to,
wonderful year it's been, man. Thank you so much for
yeah,
letting me go on this ride with you.
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, man. This wouldn't happen without you. I needed somebody to ride with me. And the fact that you showed up at my dad's funeral, and that's where we kind of kicked off the idea and that we got it done. Because at first, I think our goal was to just get 5 done. Like let's just set a goal of 5. We'll just do it. No big deal. We just released number 51. We haven't missed a week this whole year. So this year has been absolutely a year of growth for me. And the majority of it has come from this podcast, preparing for episodes, uh, getting guests, you know, doing the schedule, doing the social media posts, doing the reels, doing the Facebook shorts, all that kind of stuff. I'll go to let me
It's
go
been a
over
it's
here.
been a positive accountability shot in the arm, or surplus of I don't know, of
Absolutely.
accountability, of
And if I look at
acknowledgement.
the analytics, okay, we have at this point and nowhere but up from here right now we have 241 subscribers. And over the course of a year, but it hasn't been a whole year. This is actually December 10th. We're going to put it out at the year anniversary. So at this point, December 10th, which would be 11 months in, 241 subscribers, 225,000 views.
Wow.
And that's on YouTube alone. And then when I go over to Spotify, we've got over 1,000 plays. We're on Apple. We are on iHeartRadio, all that kind of stuff. Um, Man, we've done a lot this year. And it just kept kind of just rolling. We didn't have a whole big plan or anything like that. It just kept going and going and going. And we opened the door to different ideas. At first, I think we thought we were going to do like a police military kind of like podcast sort of deal because we know people have PTSD in that environment and all that kind of stuff. But before you know it, I've got the drug dealer showing up at the door. We've got Patch Adams's apprentice, the
Yeah.
anti-bullying clown on, like how cool is all that? And we just got to grow through the whole thing.
Well, I think that's really important to think about too. Is in your own personal growth, you don't have to have a plan. The only plan is the blueprint of staying positive and doing more positive actions, more
Yeah.
positive outlets for your stress or your anger or your loneliness or your depression. Having more positive outlets and knowing that they exist, more positive paddles, but being open to the idea that it doesn't have to be working out. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be clowning. It doesn't have to be golf. It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be religion. It can be a combination of 3 things that you never even thought you were going to do, and you're just going to find them because you're going to keep looking and you're going to keep trying to spit, making positive cycles. It could be cycling. We had a
Yeah.
bicyclist, a couple of them.
Yeah. Couple of
Uh,
them.
yeah. So I think that's important. That the whole thing about this whole year has taught me that you don't have to know the exact plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, remember 2 plus 2 equals 4, but so does 3 plus 1. So does 5
Yeah.
minus 1. There's a lot of ways to get the 4. So you want to get the 4, be open to the idea that it's not just 2 plus 2.
And to start, I think I had decided, I think the one thing that pushed me over the edge, like I'm doing this, is it's more important to help the people who we could potentially help than looking silly. So we
Yep.
didn't know what the hell we were doing. You know what I mean? I just
We
ordered
still
up an
don't.
app
We're just 2 dumb guys
and
that talk about stuff.
exactly. We were, and we kind of put it together. If you look at the first episode compared to like the last episode, there's a lot of improvements, and it was just on a weekly basis. So the biggest thing was on a weekly basis was getting better. It wasn't proving anything to anybody else. Because if I had wanted that to happen, I would not have had a good return.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I think there was something in me that wanted to show my department that I was still valuable after I got hurt. I think that was like an inner like hurt I had personally.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like a silly way to do it, but um,
Amazing what our egos can put us through, and it's amazing what you can get used to.
yeah,
Like I said, that comfortable negative cycle can be so hard to break because it's comfortable. It's
yeah,
Stockholm syndrome.
because
Stockholm
they're the only
syndrome, if you
one.
don't know, is the hostage taker becoming like a valuable person to the hostage in some way because they're comfortable with even the little bit of water or food that they get from the hostage taker. That's what Stockholm syndrome is, something to that effect.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, Most people know that by now, but I want to throw that out there real quick because I've referenced it a couple times, just in case nobody looked it up on their own yet. Here, there's a little brief overview. Positivity, creating more positivity. That paddle alone is something you got to find. So is it working out? Is it eating right? Is it music? Is it art? Is it poetry?
yeah,
Is it going for walks, tree bathing? Is it yoga?
right.
Just those that's part of what we've learned from all of this that I love, that I want to definitely talk about today. That every story seems so similar in so many ways when you stand back and look at it, from the simple types of it. You're having some problems, you've gone through some stuff, you find yourself in a negative space, and what do? You self medicate, have pleasure seeking behaviors, you get caught up in negative dopamines and negative things to try to make you feel better so you can just create this space from the
Hmm.
trauma that you had, from the bad stuff that you went through. And at some point in time, you realize that it's wrong, but you keep doing it. And it's not until you
Yeah,
recognize, like accept, you accept it. That's the part that is where change starts to happen. You accept that it is negative dopamine that's keeping you away from it. For us, alcohol was one of the bigger ones that we talked about.
yeah.
I needed to help calm the voices in my head because there's always like 300 channels going through in 30 seconds every night when my head hit the pillow, and I couldn't get it to shut up until I drowned it with alcohol.
Hmm.
That's a negative paddle to get me out of the creek. So I had to find positive paddles to get through there. And it's yoga, it's religion, it's refining my faith in Jesus. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
your paddle, but it's our paddle. It's worked for us.
yeah.
Yoga's worked for people. Other religions have worked for people. Walking through the park, like a guy said, tree bathing. I love that term. We use that with golf. Golf's another positive one. Whatever paddle that will give you positive dopamine and positive reactions, because positivity creates more positivity, and that's what gets the ball rolling in the right direction. And it can start small and it sounds simple, but it is really so true. You make the decision, you accept that your behavior was negative, you can accept the trauma, you can't control that it happened. Now you got to just treat it. You got to get that piss out of your water. You can't just keep putting sugar in it to make it taste sweeter. It's not going to taste sweeter until you deal with that trauma and that vinegar or that piss that's in the water. The snake
Hmm.
bite, you can't chase the snake down and reason with it and yell at it and say, "Why did you bite me? That was wrong of you." You have to treat the snake bite, the wound, the poison. You have to go for it. And if so, that would be negative form of reinforcement, chasing down a snake. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's negativity, creating more negativity. So it's got
Hmm.
to be a positive one. What is it? What can it be for you? Write your feelings down. Figure out something. Read a book. Listen to more podcasts. Listen to our podcast. Listen, talk to a friend. Talk to a counselor. Talk to a
Yeah.
church group. Talk to a peer group. Talk to your parents. Talk to your kids. Talk to somebody. Um, just don't sit alone and sulk in the misery and the negativity, and find a
Well,
positive paddle to start moving in the right direction. Wow, I
you
just
know,
said a lot.
no, it's perfect. And it triggered me on the idea that, when you're in your own shit creek, that's all you can see. That is
Yeah.
all you can see. And as far as you're concerned, or at least I was for a long time, my shit creek wasn't like yours. It was worse, and all this kinds of stuff. But over the last year, being able to talk to all these people who've been through stuff, you start to get like a overhead view, right?
Hmm.
So they've all created their own paths, and now we're able to kind of watch on top. How are they similar? How are they different? And all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I notice, and I'm starting to come to terms with, and I believe it affects many, many people, and I can speak on behalf of alcoholics or people with PTSD or childhood trauma or that it's, I believe for a long period of time we try to fix it ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't even want to consider the idea that we need help, because a lot of times we view whatever we're going through as um, sometimes it's embarrassing. So we want to fix it. Our ego wants everyone to believe that we're good, but on the inside, we're freaking out, you know? So we seek things that are going to give us immediate relief from the pain. So those would be, dopamine hits, whether they're coming from drugs, alcohol, relationships, work, whatever it is. And you're just trying to patch that hole, right? And you're putting band-aids on it for a long bit. Like with me with alcohol, it hurt that day. So boom, I'm just gonna drink. The next day,
That's
boom, I'm gonna
that's acknowledging and knowing it, but you haven't got to
yeah,
accepting it yet. I think that's
yeah.
the why I keep saying that term or that way I say it like that because I mean I knew for a long time that I was drinking too much. I knew for a long time that I had like demons in my head. I knew for a long time I stuffed trauma in my trauma box like a lot of first responders and military members do. But after being alone and having the time in between jobs and working on myself and admitting that okay, I'm not gonna lie about this anymore. I'm going to
Hmm.
admit. I'm going to accept it. Now I'm going to own it. That's an empowering part of it because it becomes where you are being accountable for all of the negativity you've been doing and breeding. You've been
Yeah,
breeding more negativity and breeding more negativity with negative actions and porn addictions and alcohol and pleasure seeking behaviors and just doom scrolling through the phone looking for anything that give you a little pleasure and make you laugh or make you not think about all the voices in your head, all the things going on in your head, all the visions, all the memories,
yeah,
all the discussions that you could have done differently, all the actions you could have done differently, all the actions that did happen that you didn't like, the smells. Smells was a big one for me. For a long time, I couldn't smoked barbecued meat because it reminded me too much of burning flesh. And it triggered a very physical response at night when I would sleep. I would wake up choking and
hmm,
feeling like an oil drip in the back of my throat, which later they said was heartburn and indigestion. But I find that really weird that it was related to the smell that I had that triggered something. So I think it was more of a memory than it was actually, it's just
right,
heartburn because I have those without eating smoked meat sometimes too.
right.
But it's not easy, but you gotta do it,
No.
and
And so
it
what
is the only answer.
I was thinking that like we try to fix it ourselves for so long until we get to the point. And yes, I believe by this point we've acknowledged to ourselves, I've got an issue. But
Yeah,
if you're like me, I try to fix it by myself. I'm trying to hide it. I can handle this. I'm going to box it up. It's going to be fine. It'll sort itself out. Don't worry about it. This isn't real. All that kind of stuff. Until and then you continue down that path like I did until you get to a point where you suddenly realize I can't handle this. Like I don't have the tools or the equipment to get me through this. This is unknown territory. I don't really know what I'm doing. And somewhere in there is where people become desperate enough to seek some sort of outside tool, maybe counseling, but usually it's trying to acquire something that will fix the problem from someone else. That could be like on YouTube, how do I get my life back together? And you watch a couple of videos and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to get my life back together. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
W-
I feel like
we're,
that's the part where we're acknowledging it and
hmm,
trying to accept it. The accountability part hasn't quite because
yeah,
I'm gonna fix it myself because 'cause I'm a big, strong alpha male, or I'm
hmm,
a strong, independent woman for some people or whoever it is. I'm gonna fix it myself. But what do we say? A lot of times we can be alone in our own thoughts, and those thoughts make a lot of sense when they're in our head, but as soon as you let them out and just talk about it, you go, "Oh, hey, you know what? That doesn't sound as serious as it did just a second ago when it was bouncing around in my own brain." Because we
hmm,
need that outside reach. We need that other person to be around. We are communal creatures. We have to be around people. We can't deal with things by ourselves. We're not wired that way. And when you can accept that and acknowledge that, that's when the accountability starts to come into play. And that's when real change can start to happen. And real
yeah.
positivity can start. Positive paddles can come into your hand that way. You can't find a paddle by yourself. You're just not going to. I very
I mean,
rarely will you.
yeah, rarely. It can happen sometimes, but I tell you what, if
You're a pretty
alcoholics could
strong
get,
person to do that, and it might maybe the trauma wasn't as bad as you thought, or maybe something got it started. Maybe hearing us talk about it got it started. It's
yeah,
possible, I guess. I don't want to say it's impossible, but man, is it a lot easier if you get those thoughts out of your head and share them with somebody, a friend, a stranger, a counselor, a religious person, a yoga person, a music, listening to music. If you know that's what's doing it, if it's
Right.
giving you positive vibes, if it's not giving you positive vibes, like you talked about with heavy metal working out and feeling anger after you left, well, then that wasn't positive, was it? It wa-
Right.
I mean, but it might be positive for somebody else. So I'm not here to
Right.
judge how it works, but if you get it out of your head and you can grab a positive paddle and you can start making positive progress to get you out of that negative area and that negative cycle of just repeating and repeating the negative behavior.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think a good
been
example of
life changing.
community.
Listen to everybody talk about it. It's been really life changing. It really has, and I hope it's affected you as much as it's affected me, and I hope it's affected at least one other person that listens.
Oh, it absolutely has changed me. I'm not the same human being as I was a year ago, you know? I feel totally different, and I'll get into it. I mean, it's changed my trauma. It's helped me uh be more kind to myself.
Yeah,
Um and it's been empowering to hand off paddles that I've learned and picked up along the way and help somebody else behind me. Like that's huge. Like that's full circle. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So
It normalizes some of those thoughts and patterns that we had before. It normalizes it in a way that, oh, wait a minute, I'm not the only one that goes through this.
right,
Everybody goes through this with
right.
their own personal creeks and finding their own personal paddles and finding their own personal negative behaviors that kept repeating that they didn't like, that they needed to change. What? Guess what? We're normal. We're supposed to respond this way. And now we got to figure out how to react to it normally and positively and be better. And
A
like you said,
good like
talking to yourself, we are our own worst critics way too often. That's
oh
another big
yeah.
thing. You just said, but you learned from this, and that I would agree 100%. I've learned from that too.
Yeah. A real life example of how community matters and how you need to reach out for help, I believe is the AA program. It's just a great like example if you were to look at it because everyone in there, if they could get sober alone, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah,
But when you go to the AA program, you don't take medicine. You're not prescribed anything or anything like that. You're not like in a prison cell. You're literally going on your own. What is it? You're literally deciding to go somewhere to discuss and hear from other people with the same problem. I mean, that is the program of AA. It's coming together. We're all dealing with the same issue, no matter where you're coming from, and you know, let's get to work kind of deal.
yeah,
It's just as an example or an experiment, if you were to see, because again, AA is the most powerful program against alcoholism, but
right.
again, it's not a medical thing. It is a program of community. It's a program of learning from our mistakes, owning and taking accountability for like what has happened in our lives, compared to just running from it and all that kind of stuff. And it's helpful when you have people around. I think that's what I'm just kind of trying to lead
Yeah,
to is like when you feel like when you're not the only person in the situation, it sure takes that monkey off your back.
right.
And
Well, you know, another good example of this in practice, we've acknowledged it ourselves, but maybe we just now are learning to accept it in some ways that it is a form of therapy. When we were working together in the same car, we were going
yeah,
through life things. It didn't have to be AA, doesn't have to be alcohol. We were just going through life things, and we talked about, our relationship with our spouse and different little situations that can arise. And that's when we got thoughts out of our head, spoke it out, and kind of almost answered it ourselves, even if you didn't give me the answer, or I didn't give you the answer. That was
yeah,
our example of like communal therapy, peer to peer, just talking about life.
yeah.
I mean, just that is an example.
The hard part sometimes is opening yourself up to
Mhm.
receive uh, new information.
Yeah.
So an example would
Well, you
be
get to
like,
trust the person a little bit, don't you?
yeah, you got to trust the person, and if you're anything like me and Dennis, you'll try your own way for years, until we finally get to a roadblock, and you just like out of desperation, I'm like, fine, I'll try whatever you got. I think for a long time when I said I wanted to get better, I can use my alcoholism, I can use PTSD, I can use therapy sessions, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to get better, but I was super guarded with what I would accept from people,
Mhm.
right? I almost created like, and this happens with everybody with traumas, you isolate. You know what I mean? You're like, if I can control one thing, it's me. The world can stay over there. I'm gonna be over here. Just don't fuck with me. I won't fuck with you, right?
Oh, I think I know
And
exactly where you need to go with this. The masks that you talked about the other day when we were offline. For that you wear the mask of what you think society wants to see. Because if they hurt that person, they hurt that version of you, they're not hurting the real version of you.
fine. It's interesting. Dennis and I recently discussed the idea, and going through all these episodes and seeing people kind of go through their own trauma and stuff like that, it does appear that a lot of times in life, in order to even approach society, we put on a particular mask. And the mask is almost a reflection of the person across from us because we want to basically be in their good graces in a way. You know what I mean? If I act like you, if I talk like you, if I reflect just like you, I'm just like you, right?
Those
And
in
that's sort
positive
of
ways.
safe. That's sort of like safety because you're not going to attack something like you, right? But when we discussed that, it dawned on us the idea like, is there potential to the idea that yeah, we do that because we want to be safe. But at the same time, if we're putting on a mask and acting like a certain way, and then we get rejected with that mask on, it may be possible that we put that mask on because when that masked person is put down, it's not really us, so it doesn't hurt as bad. We're almost
Right.
able to deflect it a little bit because we haven't shown up as our authentic self, right? We've shown up as like what we think you want to see. So you don't ever really see me. If you start critiquing me, you're almost critiquing yourself because I'm reflecting back what you're giving me. So it's kind of like a mind twist, I think, in there that we use for protection. You know, it's not only a mask to look like you and get in your good graces and kind of get in the center of the pack, like look like all the wolves, but it's also, you know, an opportunity to basically
Well, it's a safety net.
protect yourself from criticism. Yeah.
And I think you would wear a different mask around different people. Like,
Hmm.
I would be around some friends that weren't very, I wouldn't say they were anti-cop, but they weren't exactly pro-cop, especially during some of the civil unrest around St. Louis area 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk about cop things around them because I just didn't want to hear their negative about things. I just let it go. We're friends for a different reason. Let's be friends for those reasons. I'm sure I wasn't going to church at the time, but I'm sure that happens with churchgoers too. Like you got your church hat on, and you're going to act more churchy and talk about God and Jesus. But then when you get to work, you don't want to talk about Jesus because you don't want somebody to call you a Jesus freak.
Right.
You're at the gym, you're talking about reps and things like that. But when you're at work, maybe you don't talk about it because you're with somebody that doesn't like to work out. So you do reflect the person that you're around. And yeah, maybe
Yeah.
is it your authentic self or is it not? Maybe you should question that. I would feel like there are some people that can be their authentic self around everybody, and you can kind of tell
Yeah.
that. They kind of give that kind of glow about them. Somebody just commands a room when they walk into it. They don't apologize for anything that they're doing, but they're not really doing anything bad anyway.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a pretty powerful place to be. I don't know that I've ever been in there, in that place, but I would like to be.
Yeah.
I would like to be like, no, this is me. I mean, take it or leave it. This is how I talk. This is how I feel. These are some of my beliefs. I'm not
Yeah.
telling you have to believe like I believe. I'm not telling you have to use the pedal that I use, but I am saying that you need to try to be more positive to yourself and your situations,
And
and that's the way
authentic.
to get out of stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that
you gotta
authentic,
be authentic because
that
I
authenticity.
learned yeah, I learned in this process when I was with the police department, I would reflect kind of what the sergeant was like, you know, especially in my first squad and all that kind of stuff. And you think in that scenario, you're almost building a safety net. Like the last episode, Rachel talked about the idea that, you know, in her religious community, everyone was supposed to serve one another. But then when the rug was pulled out from underneath their family, when her dad was caught selling heroin, who was a
Rabbi,
rabbi,
it
no
was you.
one in that community caught her, right? And it's like, what else do you want me to do? Like, I was a police officer. I talked like you. I walked like you. I said the things you said. I made the promises you did. You know, I'll take a bullet for you and all that kind of stuff. And then you do it. And then the safety net that you thought would be there based on that blending in with the pack, based on, shutting up in certain situations where maybe you should have spoke up. It chips off of you, but at the same time, morally chips off you, but at the same time, you're like, well, I'm safe here. I'm part of this team. I'm part of this squad. We know one another, and
Do you think that
we
if
can
some way you could have recognized your childhood trauma earlier and dealt with it and been a more authentic self of your version of yourself, then maybe when that safety net appeared to not be there, it wouldn't have hurt
hundred
so bad?
percent, 100%,
I'm not trying to
hundred
set you
percent,
up for that, but that should be relatable to a lot of people if
yeah,
they're going through
because
stuff and they think they have too many masks on.
yeah, if you have trauma that has affected you in the way that it did me, where I felt a tremendous amount of shame my whole life, a tremendous amount of depression around it, feeling totally believing the lies of the perpetrator that God doesn't love me, my family won't love me if they find out, they'll get rid of me, and that, whatever else. Like,
So much to the point that as an adult, you don't even think about it anymore, but you just go into people pleasing mode because you want everybody to like you.
yeah, well, it's not so much that you want them to like you, you're just not wanting them to
What?
see you
That
as you see you.
yeah, yeah.
So you'll do what you need to do, act crazy, do whatever, uh, you know, just to kind of like make it look like you're handling things
It's kind
well.
of a form of peer pressure, isn't it?
A little bit, a little bit. But it is funny if you're scarred, you're not looking at it's like the brown car example we've given. Like, how many brown cars have you seen today? Probably none. But if you went out right now and you're like, I'm gonna see how many brown cars there are, you're gonna see brown cars.
Right.
Y-
Like,
you know?
I didn't see very many El Caminos until I had an El Camino as my first car, then I saw them everywhere.
Yeah,
I just got a new truck. I didn't see these big trucks very often, and I got this new truck, and I drive around, I see them everywhere.
yeah,
Uh, eh, yeah, it's association. It's something a mental association. It's not gonna be there until you think about it.
yeah.
But that
So
can
you
work
have
positively or negatively.
Yeah, and you gotta fix that trauma, and I'm still working on it. It takes a long time, especially when it was from a long time ago and it, you know, stayed there for a long time
Such a
because my whole
fragile
life
time.
it turns out my whole life I've been trying to prove to myself that I'm not a bad boy, that I'm not, a
Mhm.
sinner, that I'm not this. Like, just like when I hit the ground after I got shot, the first thing I said to myself was I didn't love enough people. I literally thought that I hadn't loved enough people to go to heaven, and I was dying right there. You know what I mean? So it's like weird stuff it
It
can
is.
do to you and how it can relate on the outside. So a lot of things, like, think about this. So during the 80s and 90s, what are the things guys would say one another? It'd be like some I'll try to say it in the most delicate way possible, but we would call each other derogatory terms. Some
Don't be a
some of them,
pussy. Get up and
yeah,
rub some dirt on it.
don't be a
Don't be a
pussy,
little
like,
bitch.
yeah, don't be a little bitch, like all that kind of stuff.
I'll
And
say
you
it, I don't
and
care.
and for a long time we would call other guys like homosexuals in so many words,
Sure,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Uh what
And
you
the
don't
R
realize
word,
is
the
what
mentally
you
challenged R word that we don't wanna say very often either anymore, because it
well
does
what I
have
was
you see, all those things have feelings to other people. We
yeah,
weren't using them in that way when we used them back then, we were using them differently, but it is still a weird masking that's going on. Go ahead and
well,
finish your point, I'm sorry to interrupt.
to a person who was sexually assaulted at 5 years
Oh,
old
yeah, yeah, I could see
by a
that.
male, and you start hearing that around like sixth grade, because that's like the term on the soccer field or the basketball court or whatever it is, like all that kind of stuff. And I know in the way people say it, they don't mean anything by it. But to a person who's been sexually assaulted,
Yeah,
it means a little bit. If I want to be absolutely honest, the that event led me for a period of my life, I guess as soon as I hit 15 to whenever, being hypersexual.
yeah,
And that was a little kid's attempt at proving that he's a man, proving that he's not gay,
yeah.
proving, like, it was very shallow. And I was proving it to myself, I think, too, you know? And I think
That
we
was
have to
that
remember,
pleasure-seeking behavior where you were trying to self-medicate in a sense. for that drama.
Yeah, and I was trying to, if that's the, the way I see myself and I don't want anyone to see me that way, I've gotta go polar opposite. I've
Yeah,
gotta go, you know, just don't really care about girls, just trying to get girls, all that kind of stuff, and then those aren't real relationships and all that kind of stuff. And you feel hollow from it because none of it matters. You know what I mean? Unless it's 12 o'clock at night on a Saturday and you're just partying your brains out and dancing. And now you're going home and doing your thing and like all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, for a little bit, it'll get rid of like the feelings or the whatever. But it is funny what trauma will make you do. You'll try to
uh,
prove to the world.
well, plus that's the age where your testosterone is raging and you're already feeling like you gotta go sow your wild oats kinda thing that
Yeah.
is biological, a thing that males go through. So we can't deny that either, but, mixed with that deep-seated fear and thought, I bet that just is like a double down kinda scenario. But here's another point that I kinda wanna bring up on this. When somebody's using those words and it's not intended to hurt you, even though it does, we gotta think this way as a culture a little bit more, not just what other people are going through and being more sensitive about what we say. I agree with that. But also, when your feelings get hurt by somebody, let's think about their intentions. Were their intentions to hurt you? Well, then you can react, you know, anger back towards them. If their intention isn't, if it is for humor, even if it does hurt a little bit, maybe you can softly and humbly tell them, "Hey, just so you know, that one actually hurts me a little bit." I had a
Mm,
friend tell me that about the R word because the R word was really big in the military. It was like calling somebody a brother, you called them the R word. And
mm,
a friend with a special needs son said, "Dude, I know you don't mean it that way. You gotta stop saying it around me because, my son, it just gives me negative vibes and makes me feel angry." And I
yeah.
go, "Dude, I completely understand. I am sorry. I didn't mean it that way, and I'm glad you recognize that."
Yeah.
Um, and so then I started change whenever I mean, it was hard to break that habit, but I mentally made the connection to the bad R word to ridiculous. So, when
Mm,
R started coming out, I could change it to ridiculous real quick. "Oh, don't be ridiculous," you know?
yeah.
And it worked. I finally got it out of my vocabulary enough that out of respect for that situation and that stuff. But that would've been so much worse if I said it and he just went off the handle because he didn't like it and just started throwing punches at me like he wanted to. If he
Right.
responded with that first reaction. And I feel like a lot of people in cultures, especially since the internet's gotten bigger and bigger, when we're going through different scenarios with the police departments or social scenarios where people always second guessed what happened or how they would have done things differently. We
Mm,
never really were examining the intentions of the situation either. Like that was never really talked to, and I always found that interesting because that was something that I always brought up to people in those online discussions. Like, but you can tell, look at his eyes. He's flexing his fist. He's thinking about fighting. So his intention wasn't just, whatever. I don't want to try to say anything specific because I don't want this to turn into anything specific. I want to keep this very general. But I feel like that's something that we as a society, especially with this second guessing everybody, instant information, we weren't really examining some intentions because that needs to play a part.
mm,
I mean, it plays a part in criminal proceedings. The intended murder, the planned out murder, is always a worse charge than the accidental manslaughter with a car wreck.
yeah.
And that's a very serious, extreme example of what I'm talking about. And then the R word was a little bit smaller, less significant,
Mm,
like in seriousness anyway. But they're both important, and there's a whole lot of areas in between there that could be covered and be put to it if you just try to be loving, kind, humble, and try to be authentically yourself, and also search for the intentions. Okay, was your intentions really towards me? Same thing with on the road. We talked about this too. Somebody cut
mm,
you off. Were they really intending to make you mad? Or were they
right.
maybe really legit late to get to a hospital to see a dying family member? Once you make that transition to stop making it about you and the victimization of it, it becomes
Mhm.
easier to react in a more positive way than a negative way.
Yeah. I'm actually rounding a corner, and I didn't think this was possible, but now I'm starting to understand that my reactions are actually my responsibility.
Absolutely. It's the only
You
thing you
know?
really can control in this world, how you
S
respond to things.
So another word is instead of reacting, it's responding, like you just said. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Another thing I heard recently that kind of correlates this with somewhere in the Bible, it says like, "Don't let words hurt you," or "Don't be sensitive to
Yes.
bad."
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
It's basically like that. Like Jesus basically saying, "Don't let people's words hurt you. You
Okay.
have me." You know what I mean? So it's like, why are you caring about what a person says when you know
Yep.
who you are?
Well, yeah, other people's opinions are none of your business. Let them think what they want to think. You know who you are. Be authentically you, be in a positive space, be in a negative space, and somebody sees it negatively, that's their problem. If they come to you and ask you, maybe you can explain it to them and maybe it'll change their mind. If they don't, who cares? Let them say something ugly about you behind your back. None of your business.
Yeah, because
Just be you.
I can see
People will
now that
see
for
the
a
truth.
yeah, for a long period of time, I was very, very, and I probably still am some days, sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, sensitive about talking about the situation, sensitive about what your opinions might be about what I could have done better, or you know what I mean, or worse, or whatever like, just so sensitive to being criticized, so sensitive to, like, you know, and so that graduated to like I can barely even talk to you because I'm even making up words for you. So for a long period of time, I there was a long period of time where like I didn't have almost the choice over my response. It was so quick, and then I was almost catching myself for a long period of time. And that sucks to any listener out there. I that that's been through that when you're literally almost watching yourself do the action and at the same time you're wishing you could grab yourself back, but it's too late, you know?
Well, I feel like that reaction is a self-preservation reaction to being hurt and feeling like somebody's going after you and their intentions are going after you in your mind. So that is going to be a perfectly normal first response if they really were attacking you.
Yeah.
But that's the pause that you have to put into it. And it's not easy because that self-preservation, I'm being attacked, I want to defend myself is completely normal. So I want to
Yeah.
make sure that's clear too. Like I'm not
And,
saying that you're abnormal for feeling that way. What you have to do is train yourself to think about it. Take a second, count to 10 before you react. We've heard those kind of things all your life. It's
mhm,
true though. And if you can put yourself in a positive spot instead of a negative spot and then analyze the intentions, maybe your reaction won't be as a negative one. Maybe it'll be a positive one. You can
yeah.
control it. So make the choice to control it. Blueprint is easy, action is hard.
That's a good point. You have to train yourself again because
Mhm.
I felt like I kind of had my mental maturity there as a police officer. I was very good, I think, at, seeing situations, resolving them, seeing, the gray, if you will. And after I got hurt, it flipped a switch in my brain where it was just like I was so sensitive to everything, like just any situation was overwhelming. It brought up, emotions that didn't have any right to be in the situation. It's funny. So anyone out there who's going through it, I know it's not as easy as it sounds. It's easy to say, you got to train it and like all that kind of stuff, but it takes time, and resilience isn't getting it right. Resilience is just keep trying,
Yeah.
and there will be a payoff to those efforts. And it didn't happen for me overnight at all. But I am now a different person because I continue to try to be better. If
Yeah. And
even like,
it takes redundancy. You have to keep going over. We talked about that before.
yeah,
Easy to say, hard to do, but you have to be every day. It's a conscious choice. Just like working out can be. You have it takes a while before it becomes like something that you want to do. you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Uh,
where it's like routine.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you have to do mental training too, just like I do physical training. And I think spiritual training is another big step in that, and it's part of my battle. And that's why reconnecting with my faith is a positive influence. So, I mean, yeah, make it a spiritual paddle with nature. Make it a spiritual paddle with yoga. Make it a spiritual paddle, and not just the stretching yoga like uh, uh, the most recent guest that we just listened to. But this will probably
Rachel.
record Rachel. Uh, she said that she talked about how yoga initially was just like meditation and
Hmm.
finding peacefulness. That's a spiritual paddle. Use it.
Yeah.
Um, I like the
Yeah.
stretching part of it because it's getting my body more active again and getting ready for. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not
Yeah.
happened yet. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm getting ready to go through several months of high intensity physical activity with some younger kids or younger adults, and I want to be able to keep up with them. So instead of waiting for day one and being completely shocked, I want to start getting back in the habit. I was doing 2 runs a day for a while until I had this real bad sinus infection that derailed me. But I'm back to it now. I did yoga this morning. I did the elliptical for 20 minutes. I'll do some more stretching later tonight. Before I go to bed, I'll probably do the elliptical again. If it warms up enough, I might actually do the run. But I want that first breakdown to happen on day one. I want day one to be a step up from what I was already doing, so my body can adjust
Yeah.
accordingly.
Make sure you're stretching. Stretching is like the
That's
biggest
what I
thing.
like, that stretching of the yoga, and it's not easy. It's tough.
No, yoga is
Uh,
very tough. Very tough.
As we wrap up this 1 year reflection, I personally want to say thank you to every listener, every guest, and every person who shared the show. This past year has taught us that resilience is not loud and flashy. It's built quietly through discipline, honesty, faith, and community. If this episode gave you hope, share it with someone who might need it, subscribe, leave a review, or just let someone know that they're not alone. No matter how long you've been in the creek, keep paddling. 1 year in, we've learned this for sure. Hope grows when we refuse to quit.